So this month, I finally revisited Bioshock after probably 5 years since my last playthrough. And, as always, it's fucking goated. It originally came out in 2007. It was developed by 2K and Irrational Games, published by 2K, etc., etc. You are a guy. You're named Jack. You know nothing about Jack. You're in a plane crash. Suspiciously, there's a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. You go inside the lighthouse. You go down a tube, and you're in Rapture, which everybody and their mother knows about by now. It's an underwater city that's set sometime in the mid-20th century, of which is moderately steampunky. It is, as you find out throughout the game, been developed by a bunch of rich assholes subscribing to objectivism, and it's fallen to shit. And you have to navigate that while taking care of tweakers, basically. The plot is pretty straightforward. You go from place to place. You meet new people. You are guided by Atlas, who is my bestest buddy. Don't ever tell me anything is wrong with Atlas. I just don't know where he got off to in the third act. And it's so hard to do an overview of Bioshock because so much of it is environmental storytelling, and the plot is actually really simple on paper. It's all given depth by its world building, its collectibles, and like general presentation. The twist that everybody knows about by now, or at least they know that there is a twist that happens around the end of the second act of the game, is great. The seeds are planted really early, but if you don't know what you're looking for, they don't quite point you in a certain direction until the twist happens. Then you go, oh, so that's great. Also, another, I guess, larger criticism is that the third act kind of meanders a little bit after said twist, and I do kind of agree with that, but it doesn't really bother me that much. This game is nothing but vibes out the fucking ass. Dude, I'm playing an 18-year-old game, and it still looks incredible. So, story is really good. Anything more specific than that, I just don't really give a shit about getting into specifics on a show. It just doesn't make sense. The delivery mechanism of the story is immaculate. This is one of the best and first games to get audio logs done correctly. They are supplemental information with a couple of key points thrown in. They can be played during gameplay without having to navigate a submenu. And there's a lot of them, but some of them are just throwaways. Some of them are more important than others. I believe there's around 100 of them in total. This playthrough, I probably got about 80. And I just didn't feel like going back to find the rest of them, to be honest. The fact that you are navigating a unique setting that is originally presented as a utopia that has now fallen into dystopia, and you are observing its goings-on shortly after a failed revolution by the poor people, and basically just watching a bunch of like zombie drugged out freaks run around and the couple of last remnants of its inhabitants is incredible storytelling potential. It's like it's like 28 days later type shit. You just missed the apocalypse. So you have all of this new world to discover through an incredibly specific lens, and not a lot of people to tell you about what's going on. So you have to piece together a lot of threads, which is really cool. I'm stupidly still impressed with its graphical fidelity, given its age. It's insane. I believe this was Unreal Engine 2, so old-ass piece of software. Particularly its lighting engine is still probably up to today's standards, or at least close to it. Like I usually say with games of this era, either the graphics or the lighting engine still work. I think both work here, but I would definitely lean on the lighting engine in terms of reflectivity of different surfaces. Water surprisingly looks really good, again, given how fucking old it is. Just insane stuff. I had no technical problems whatsoever on a presentation standpoint. The soundtrack is fantastic, start to finish. No particular standouts, but because a lot of the transitions between levels are given short cutscenes, as well as like large pivotal moments, it plays plays out very cinematically, which is great. The fact that this game has a voiceless protagonist and it actually is a part of the story is, at the time, just beginning to kick off. You know, we had our Halos and so on, but this trope will be worn into the ground, especially by today's standards. It's very boring if it's not integrated into the story. Why do you not talk to people? It's just, we don't hear you talk. We don't know. Nobody knows what Jack looks like. There is no canonical version of his face. It's just a character, but because of your place within the story, it feels it's important in terms of how Rapture has functioned up until this point, as well as how it's going to continue to not function moving forward. But also your hollowness is relevant. It's a part of your characterization and it's a part of the story, which is really, really good for getting the hooks into the intrigue. Everybody knows about the big daddies and the little sisters, but they're great. A part of this world building is that the large, unique substance that the unique commodity that Rapture runs on is called Adam. It's a genetic goop that's been derived and for some reason grows best in little girls. Don't ask questions. So there's a lot of storytelling that goes into the fact that basically one of the large company owners within Rapture has been opening up an orphanage and a poor shelter to traffic little girls into becoming experiments. They're brainwashed, their personalities basically go away, they become kind of living husks, and they are guarded by big daddies, which are big old diver suit looking motherfuckers who are formerly like psychotic psych patients apparently, who also then lose all sense of autonomy and identity, and they just protect the little sisters. They are a really good gameplay element. They're very good at building suspense. It's obviously a very large part of the iconography of the game for a reason. When you walk around a corner in an area and you just see a fucking big daddy or you see its backside, you're like, fuck, I can't take that right now. And if you haven't either played the game before or you're in maybe the first half, you don't know that they're not immediately hostile, because it feels like you could just stealth around them, but they don't antagonize you unless you shoot them first. Large morality choice base in this game is definitely overblown. I think even at the time it was a lot less to write home about. Basically, you can harvest all the little sisters or you can kill them and harvest them. If you harvest them, you save them from their conditioning, and at the end of the game, if you saved all of the ones that you have, defeated their big daddies, they help you defeat the big boss. If not, they send off fucking nukes and end the world. It's a really weird, bad ending. The good ending is just the real ending of the game. Nobody really goes for the bad ending because it's fucking weird. So the morality system doesn't really go anywhere, but it does in the moment feel important because it has a gameplay element. If you harvest them while they're alive, you only get some Adam to use in your upgrade system. If you kill them and you take all of their Adam, you get a lot more. So the math you have to balance, it actually brings up ethical questions. Gameplay is really, really good. So gameplay being based on the what was the name of the thing? System Shock kind of era of first-person shooters. Now he's a bear. Does mean that mobility is kind of clunky, despite it being a large aspect of the gameplay in terms of movement, strafing, maneuvering around obstacles. It just has kind of a bulky feel to it, which does actually come in handy towards the later half of the game where you become a big daddy and you end up wearing large chunks of armor. The gameplay gets modified slightly, so it does lean into what it is, I suppose. I think it's supposed to be around 1/3 gunplay, 1/3 tonics / Atom upgrades that you can get. So you can shoot electricity, you can hypnotize big daddies, use telekinesis, stuff like that, and 1/3 using the environment against enemies. I think it doesn't really end up being equal thirds in the slightest. It's probably more like 80-20 everything else, 80% being gunplay, but that's also kind of just my play style. The plasmid tonics have a wide variety of usages. You collect them throughout the game. Some of them are required for story progression or unlocking new locations, a little bit of Metroidvania type retreading of old areas. And some of them, frankly, just suck. There's like 30 of them. I think probably 10 of them are good. 10 of them are kind of gimmicky. They can come in handy, but they're not terribly useful on a regular basis. And some of them are just kind of junk. Using electricity and incinerate is obviously like a go-to for pretty much any situation. You can disable security cameras, turrets, electrocute enemies, or light them on fire, burn flammable liquids like gasoline or alcohol, things like that. And then using the environment, again, you would be lighting like burnt, opened gas cans or puddles of water. There's some electric traps that have been left by previous residents of Rapture that you can try to maneuver enemies through, but it's quite tricky. As well as hacking security cameras and turrets, so they're on your side. It is mostly gunplay, just flat out. All of the guns are extremely well balanced, in my opinion. There is certainly a progression as the story goes on when you collect, oh, I have a shotgun now. Oh, I have the assault rifle now, et cetera, or machine gun, whatever. But they do all feel relatively balanced, as well as ammo placement and pricing for ammo that is through vending machines seems to be pretty well balanced. You do have to use multiple weapons. You cannot just have one thing that you main. You're probably going to need to pick like 3 out of 8 at least, but all of them have strong utility. Even in, I'd say, the second act, when you use a chemical sprayer, you can use napalm or like a cryogenic fluid or whatever. Even things like that sound kind of gimmicky are surprisingly useful in most encounters. All of the guns feel very weighty. The sound design holds up extremely well. It's very punchy. It's very abrasive. You do feel like a civilian. You don't feel like some federal military man coming in to wreck shit. You feel like you are scrambling for your life most of the time. Not necessarily because the game is difficult, but in a combination of ammo scarcity, the weapon balancing, and just generally how enemies interact with you. You will be ambushed quite frequently by groups of splicers, which are more or less zombies, but they are previous residents of Rapture who have been hooked onto all their various atom-based tonics and juices. So they're kind of just psychotic now. There are 3 or 4 main enemy types. You have your basic splicer with a gun. You have a spider splicer, which have like hand knife thingies. They will crawl on the ceiling and the walls. They'll bum rush you to try to stab you in the back. And you have nitro splicers, which throw grenades and other types of incendiaries. And there are Houdini splicers, which use some type of magic, which is never really explained, to teleport and just kind of fuck with your head. I feel like the balancing of these enemies certainly leans more heavily towards the lead head splicers, the ones with guns, especially in the late game. There's a lot of those, despite it being the most basic enemy type. But they all interact with you in a unique capacity. I can't tell if it's unique enemy placement or if it is some type of RNG to this. I genuinely can't tell. For me, is usually a good indicator of whatever sort of enemy placement system they're utilizing. If I can't tell if it's random or specific, it feels like revisiting areas has a very high likelihood of having new enemies appear in decreased quantities. Big daddies are extremely difficult in the early game when you don't have a lot of damage upgrades or a variety of weapons. But once, I think around the midpoint, they take a turning point into basically just a mini boss. It's like a 2-minute encounter if you know what you're doing. They will bum rush you. They will throw grenades, the whole 9 yards. Pretty much everything you can think of, they can probably figure out a way to do. So you have to kill them very quickly before they get the upper hand. The final boss of the game in terms of gameplay is usually where a lot of complaints come in. I think it's extremely flat. You effectively have to go up to the boss in a weakened state, try to drain him of his atom, you get kicked off, and then he switches his powers up to a different type of tonic and a different attacks pattern, and you have to weaken him. It's very repetitive. It's okay. It's just kind of anticlimactic in comparison to what it feels like you could be preparing for. You can basically defeat the boss using one gun and one plasmid as long as you have enough ammunition. Unless it's on the hardest difficulty, it is fairly flat. Story-wise, I think it works very well, but just as mechanically as boss battle, it's a little anticlimactic. Like I said, the alternate ending is kind of stupid. So the canonical ending moving forward was just the good ending where you rescue all the little sisters you find. And that ends with a nice little cinematic. You basically just raise them outside of Rapture. They all go on to have a long, nice life. They're just your kids now. It's cute. The pre-rendered cinematics on that note are very well handled. Those also hold up extremely well, graphically speaking, especially given the amount of time that's passed. In the background of having your plasmid arsenal, you also have tonics, which you encounter throughout the game. Again, you can also purchase a lot of them for Adam. They are basically background buffs or debuffs, increase melee damage, decreasing in the difficulty of hacking, chance to freeze an enemy during a melee attack, things like that. It's also a pretty good selection on that front. There are probably like 50 of those, I think. Don't quote me. It feels like a lot, but it does feel like most of them are fairly useful, and there are also upgraded versions of most of them. So that feels like a very natural game progression to collect. During any sort of revisit through a level area, or just trying to go back and look for collectibles, you will find more tonics in a lot of hidden areas, hidden compartments, lots of safes that you can miss on your initial playthrough. The hacking mechanic is, I guess, decent for its time, but particularly now is very flat. You have to connect a series of tubes for hacking juice, basically. I guess it's supposed to act like wiring. So you have to select a bunch of squares, uncover them, and try to match the right pipe pieces. It's okay. I just buy a lot of auto hacks because I'm lazy, and it works fine. It's just another monkey wrench in the mix, I guess. Bioshock is a classic for a reason. It has nearly perfect presentation. It has extremely tight pacing and character intrigue. The story is straightforward, but has a lot of mystery to it. It's pretty well paced, in my opinion. The entire game can be played in, I think, 8 hours, but the average playtime is like 12 to 15. Getting 100% on all the collectibles is probably like 30. Difficulty is solid on pretty much any of them. It feels reasonable. It feels like pretty much all of your deaths will be because of human error, not just the game bullshitting you. The gameplay is fun. It has a level of depth to it, but it's not too much depth. It's challenging, but not frustrating. It's very frustrating that the remastered version is not very good on that front. It's functional, but it does, as with a lot of remasters, so especially since that remaster came out, it takes away a lot of the aura of this time period for games by just kind of cranking up all the visuals to 11 and losing a lot of the artistry to it. I played this on Xbox Series X using the original 360 disc. I've had this disc for probably like 10 years now. It's fucking great. Anybody who likes first-person shooters of any variety should be playing this. It's probably in my top 20 games of all time, somewhere in that neck of the woods. It's really, really good. It just has a couple of criticisms that bring it down, but not too much.